All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Debbie. We're going to get started in just a minute. Just so you know, we are recording the session, so feel free to turn off your videos in case you don't want to get accidentally recorded. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started while Alana lets people in slowly. So hello and welcome to Talent Match's webinar in collaboration with Service Canada on the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Before I introduce everyone, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples on whose lands each of our speakers is working from today. And we invite you to introduce yourself and acknowledge the land you are on in the chat. Our speakers are in various parts of the country, including in Vancouver on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh regions. In Winnipeg, within Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Ininu, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dene, and Dakota, and it's the birthplace of the Métis Nation and the heart of the Métis Nation homeland. And in Calgary, on the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta, the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Siksika, the Guyana, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, and the Métis Nation Region 3. My name is Debbie Reed, and I'm Talent Match's project manager, and I'd like to introduce you to today's speakers. Melanie, Greene, and Tracy Brooks. Melanie, your video off. Melanie is a senior program development officer with Service Canada, and she's been with the department for 4 years, and with the last 3 years as part of the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Prior to that, Melanie spent many years in communications and public relations within the not-for-profit sector. Melanie enjoys working in Canada Summer Jobs and finds helping youth gain valuable work experiences very rewarding. Tracy has been a program officer with Canada Summer Jobs for 5 years, and she has extensive experience in the hospitality industry and career development with certificates from the American Hotel and Lodging Association. Growing up, her family owned and operated a fishing tourist lodge. And Tracy has worked at lounges and bars and managed fine dining establishments. She feels that the arts, heritage, and hospitality industries are a fabulous place for youth to learn and grow and develop an amazing career. Also joining us today to help with technical support is Alana Hebert, who's recently joined the Talent Match program as our career coach. And I'd like to also introduce Miranda Melanie, who is also new to the Talent Match program. She'll be developing Talent Match Plus, which will focus on supporting nonprofits across BC. We're also joined by 2 ASL interpreters today, Carmen and Carly. Just so you all know, we are recording the webinar, so you can rewatch it later or share it with your colleagues. And I'll share that recording as well as the slides so you don't have to take extensive notes. And if you have questions throughout the webinar, please add them to the chat. And at the end of the presentation, we'll go through as many of them as we can. But before I hand things over to Melanie and Tracy, I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you about the Talent Match program. So I'm just going to share my slides. There we go, and I'll just go to full screen. So for those who may not know, MATCH stands for Museums, Arts, Tourism, Culture, and Hospitality. And the Talent Match program is a collaboration between the BC Museums Association, the BC Alliance for Arts and Culture, Go to HR, which is the BC Tourism and Hospitality Industries Human Resources Association, as well as ACE-WIL, the Association for Cooperative Education and Work Integrated Learning for BC Yukon. The program is funded by the Ministry of Advanced Education and Skills Training. There we go. Talent Match's goal is to help museums, arts, tourism, culture, and hospitality organizations access student talent through co-ops and other work-integrated learning placements, so that those students can in turn help these organizations recover and renew. Talent Match is now growing Talent Match Plus, which expands support to nonprofit organizations in BC in general, and our coordinator for that expansion is the aforementioned Miranda Neslaney. We're also expanding by providing resources for students, which our career coach, Alana Hebert, will be managing. Oops. The program provides employers with resources to make hiring a student easier. And this includes information on funding, such as today's info session, help connecting to post-secondary institutions or programs that are relevant to the positions or projects that employers want students to help with, and tips on how to recruit and onboard students into your organization. In addition to resources, Talent Match provides one-on-one support. So you can email me to arrange a time to talk about your organizational needs. And you can see both the Talent Match URL and my email address in the slide right now. I can help you brainstorm for the project or position and find the information that is helpful to you in bringing on a student. Now, while the Canada Summer Jobs program allows you to hire anyone who's between 15 and 30 years old, I'd like to take some time to tell you a little bit about the benefits of hiring students who often fall within this age range and how you can recruit them. Students are motivated and have up-to-date skills. You can think about when you first started out, you were eager to prove yourself, build your resume, and network to kick off your career. And students are the same. They're eager to learn and to work hard. Plus, at school, they're learning the most up-to-date skills about the latest softwares, methodologies, and more. They can offer a fresh perspective to your organization on how to do things. Students are especially great if you need to expand your organizational capacity by having them manage short-term projects or cover seasonal needs. The most common type of student placement is a co-op, which is approximately 420 hours over a 4-month period. Of course, this can be extended to multiple semester co-ops, but this 4-month placement coincides perfectly with the timeline for Canada's Summer Jobs funding. Supervising students can develop leadership skills in your existing staff. Having someone supervise and mentor a student can provide them the opportunity to learn how to train, delegate to, and manage others. And working with schools can support your team in providing mentorship. In the long term, you're establishing a source of talent, not only for your own organization, but for the community. At some point, you're going to need to hire for more permanent roles. And you know that when you see an application from someone who's worked in the sector before, or better yet, at your organization before, you're more likely to select that person for the job. Plus, you're building your community by hiring students. If a student has a good experience, they're likely to support your organization in the long run, possibly as future staff, but also as a future customer or patron, donor, or supporter who will talk up your organization to their friends and family. So how do you recruit students? Of course, you can post your opportunity with the job boards hosted by our partner organizations, the BC Alliance for Arts and Culture, the BC Museum Association, and Go to HR. And, and an easy way for you to recruit from multiple schools at once is to use ACE-WIL's Post an Opportunity portal. This is not a job board, but once you fill in the form, it sends your posting to the schools you selected, and then staff at that institution will post your job. The form is pretty self-explanatory, but the most important part is selecting the schools because the form will only be sent to the schools you choose. So how do you figure out which schools have programs that suit your needs? Firstly, the ACE-WIL website offers a map of all their member institutions in BC. It can help you decide which schools to recruit from. And each institution's page lists work-integrated learning programs. While that's not an extensive list, it is a great place to start. In addition, as part of Talent Match program, I've been building simplified recruitment guides. So first off here is our simplified GLAM recruitment guide, and GLAM stands for galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. This lists programs that are most relevant to the GLAM sector, which includes museum studies, library and information technology, as well as schools that have anthropology, Indigenous studies, or other relevant programs. It's currently a little thin on programs specifically related to galleries, but I hope to update it in the coming months. And you can access this guide on the Talent Match webpage. There's also a similar guide for the hospitality and tourism sector, and this includes 5 broad program types: tourism and hospitality management, adventure and outdoor recreation, event management, and culinary arts, which includes cooking, baking, and pastry chef programs, and finally viticulture for the wine industry. Again, this guide is available on the Talent Match webpage. I've begun building a similar guide for the fine and performing arts as well, and I intend to create one that covers more administrative related programs, which will include graphic design, accounting, and others. In the meantime, however, please feel free to reach out, as I'm happy to research programs for you. Finally, when you're ready to start recruiting, we've created a general recruitment guide, which includes tips on what to include in a job posting and sample interview questions, and another tip sheet on how to hire students who can take initiative, as well as many other resources. So now that you know more about how to recruit students, I'll hand things over to Melanie and Tracy, who can tell you more about the Canada Summer Jobs program overall, including the eligibility criteria for both the employer and employee, how to apply, and generally how your organization can access the subsidy. I'll just end my share. And Tracy, you can go ahead and start sharing.
Hello. Thank you to Debbie for facilitating this information session. And thank you to everyone for joining us today to learn more about the Canada Summer Jobs funding and how to apply. I'll just give Tracy a second. Are you sharing now?
Sorry. I thought I was.
Almost there.
Is it there now? Okay, sure. I need to press an extra button. There we go. Can you see my screen now?
Yes. Thank you. So it's especially timely right now that we're having this session because we're currently in the midst of the Canada Summer Jobs 2022 call for applications period. And I know that Debbie just introduced us, but I'll just let you know that I'm Melanie. I work out of Winnipeg and I am presenting together with my colleague Tracy. I'm sure you've gathered. Tracy will be on a little bit later on in the presentation, and she's located in Calgary. So we would just ask that you please hold your questions to the end. There will be a brief Q&A period to follow, and we would greatly appreciate that. So we'll move on to the next slide. Let's just go over our purpose a little bit. So our objective today is to provide information on the Canada Summer Jobs program and how to apply for funding this year. We will start with an overview and key components of the program and highlight the parameters of the 2022 season. We will provide you with basic information on Canada Summer Jobs, including program objectives and eligibility criteria. We will also review each of the assessment criteria and highlight key elements of the application form and explain their significance. However, you will still need to thoroughly read and understand both the Articles of Agreement and the Applicant Guide before you begin to complete your application. Later on, we will provide 8 helpful tips to assist you in preparing your application. At the end of this information session, you should have a good understanding of Canada Summer Jobs 2022 and how to apply. Next slide. Canada Summer Jobs, or CSJ we like to call it, is an initiative of the Youth Employment and Skills Strategy, or YES. The intent of the program is to support Canadian youth aged 15 to 30 to gain quality paid work experiences. By responding to both national and local priorities, the program aims to provide youth who are facing unique barriers to employment with improved access to the labor market. CSJ also provides opportunities that help youth develop and improve their skills for successful transition into the labor market. Move on to key components. So eligible employers include private sector organizations with 50 or fewer full-time employees, as well as not-for-profits and public sector organizations are eligible to apply for funding. I'd like to share with you a little bit about impact on employers through the CSJ program. Each year, Canada Summer Jobs provides funding to organizations across the Western Canada and Territories region in order to develop and promote programs that improve the lives of Canadians of all ages and all walks of life. An organization that has recently received Canada Summer Jobs funding and experienced resounding success is Whistle Stop Gallery and Visiting Centre, located in McBride, BC. Here's an email from their manager to the program officer responsible for the file. Hi, Alyssa. This program has been a lifesaver for us and for our young hires during these difficult times. Please know that your program changes lives, perhaps even saves them. This funding has such a positive impact and allows us to offer these opportunities that truly enriches the lives and futures of our students, our organization, and our community. We cannot adequately express our gratitude and appreciation for what you do. Warmest regards, Danielle Allen, Manager, Whistle Stop Gallery and Visitor Center. So you can see that the program does have a very positive impact, and it does spread across us as program officers working with Service Canada. To hear that kind of feedback is really heartwarming and very rewarding. So another key component of the program is the youth, and just letting you know that it is open only, as Debbie mentioned, that it's open to all youth aged 15 to 30, not just students who can apply for jobs. So the program is accessible. It used to be just students, but now it's all youth within 15 to 30. And it's easy to apply for funding. We've given many options. One of them is a fillable application form that's available on our website. And there's a grants and contributions online services, or we call it GCodes, which is easy to apply through as well. And we also offer the opportunity for people to hire youth, organizations to hire youth through Job Bank. So all approved jobs are posted automatically to the Job Bank website. And there's an app as well to help young people find jobs. So this allows youth to find all CSJ funded jobs in one place and allows employers to reach out to a greater potential audience to find the right person for the job. So there are two websites for Job Bank. Ensure that you are using the one that is jobbank.gc.ca/youth. So there's some new parameters for CSJ 2022. In recent years, last year and a little bit of the year before, we had introduced new flexibilities to support employers through the COVID pandemic. But we are returning more to our standard format. So if you've ever applied for CSJ funding before, you'll be familiar. So the government has committed to create 100,000 CSJ jobs for youth in 2022. And this is more than normal. We normally provide about between 70 and 80,000 jobs per year. So they've increased the funding this year. It's not as high as last year, but it is still higher than normal. For 2022, CSJ is returning to its regular parameters and will offer quality jobs over the summer months. The job can start as early as April 25th and will need to end by September 3rd, 2022. And jobs will need to be full-time with a minimum of 30 hours a week and a duration of 6 weeks. The application process. So we'll go over the application process a little bit now. So when and how to apply. So applications must be submitted by January 25th, 2022. Applications received or postmarked after that date will not be considered, and the applicant will be advised of this in writing. There are 4 ways you can apply for Canada's summer jobs. Online, as I mentioned, through the IFFS or fillable application form and GCodes, as well by mail or in person. Applications can be dropped at one of your Service Canada centers. They are discouraging people visiting in person right now at this time, of course, due to COVID, but they can still be dropped off. Applications submitted by fax or email will not be considered. The Canada Summer Jobs Applicant Guide provides all of the information to help you complete your application. Always refer to the applicant guide when submitting your application, and all of this information can be found online at our website at canada.ca/Canada Summer Jobs. So let's talk a little bit more about GCodes, Grants and Contributions Online Services. This system is easy and secure. It lets you have 24/7 access to your application. You can track your application status, manage active projects, submit claims, supporting documents and employer-employee declaration forms, and subscribe to direct deposit through this online system, and also review past projects submitted through GCodes. So it's a very convenient system to use for applying.
Yeah.
The eligible employers and funding levels, that's the next slide, Tracy, thank you. As the applicant guide will explain, employers in the not-for-profit and public sectors are eligible to apply, as well as small private sector businesses with 50 or fewer full-time employees across Canada. Applications received from ineligible employers will not be assessed, and such applicants will be informed of their ineligibility in writing. So not-for-profit employers are eligible for up to 100% of the provincial or territorial adult minimum wage, and up to 100% of the mandatory employment-related costs, also known as Mercs. So that would include employment insurance and those types of items. If a not-for-profit employer chooses to pay a higher wage to the youth, the maximum reimbursement under Canada's summer jobs will be an amount equivalent to the adult minimum wage. The Mercs can include, I was just saying that, employment insurance, EI, premiums, Canada Pension Plan contributions, and vacation pay. For more details on Mercs, please consult the applicant guide and contact Service Canada. Employers in the public sector, including territorial but not provincial governments, and private sectors are eligible for up to 50% of the provincial or territorial adult minimum wage. If an employer chooses to pay a higher wage to the youth, the maximum reimbursement under Canada Summer Jobs will be 50% of the minimum wage. Public and private sector employers must cover the full cost of the Mercs. Next slide. Eligible youth. To be eligible, youth must be 15 years of age at the beginning of the employment period. The youth may be more than 30 years of age at the end of the employment period, as long as the youth was 30 at the beginning of the employment period. They no longer need to be returning students. They must be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or person to whom refugee protection has been conferred under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act for the duration of employment. And they must have a valid social insurance number at the start of employment and be legally entitled to work in Canada in accordance with relevant provincial or territorial legislation and regulations. International students are not eligible as participants. International students can include anyone who is temporarily in Canada for studies and who is not a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or person who has been granted refugee status in Canada. As the objective of the CHA program is to support youth entering the Canadian labor market, the temporary nature of an international student's time in Canada does not allow for a long-term connection to the labor market. Therefore, they're not eligible for reimbursement of funding under the program. Next slide, impact on youth. So I just want to share a message that we received regarding a youth. This youth wrote into us and said, I wanted to take the time to say that the place that I work, Spray Lakes Family Sports Center, is such an amazing facility. Everyone who works here is fantastic. This place has taken me in and accepted me for who I am, flaws and all. Everyone who I have the pleasure to work with, either for or with, are all genuine, caring, and compassionate people, and that can be hard to find in the world these days. I am beyond grateful that I get to be a part of that. It has changed my life for the better, made me grow, made me more mature, made me change my perspective on certain things in a positive way, and overall made me a happier person, and that's more than I could ever ask for. Thank you sincerely, Brandon Polisher, CSJ Youth Participant, Alberta. I'll now pass it over to Tracy to continue.
Love those stories. Actually, that's one of my clients. So yeah, heartwarming seeing those. Fantastic. I will go over the eligibility or eligible activities, pardon me. So our activities must provide work experiences that support skills, acquisition, and development. It must provide work experience that occurs in a safe, inclusive, non-discriminatory workplaces that respect the rights of all Canadians. Provide full-time work experience between April 25th and September 3rd, 2022 in Canada for a minimum of 6 weeks. Have a duration of 6 to 16 weeks of work, averages about 8 weeks. And to also offer full-time hours, minimum 30 and a maximum of 40 hours per week. Ineligible projects and activities include the following. Projects consisting of activities that take place outside of Canada, activities that contribute to the provision or personal service to the employer, partisan political activities, fundraising activities to cover salary costs for the youth participant, and projects or job activities that restrict access to programs, services, or employment, or otherwise discriminate contrary to applicable laws on the basis of prohibited grounds, including sex, genetic characteristics, religion, race, national or ethnic origin, color, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression, or advocate intolerance, discrimination, and or prejudice, or actively work to undermine or restrict a woman's access to sexual and reproductive health services. I'm just going to go over a little bit of the eligibility and the assessment phase. And do remember, you can find all of this information in the 2022 Canada Summer Jobs Applicant Guide. So you must meet the following 15 eligibility requirements for your project to be considered eligible for funding. Application must be submitted before the deadline. Attestation box must be checked. Application box be complete in full. Employer must be eligible. Project activities must be eligible. The job duration must be between 6 and 16 consecutive weeks. Job hours must be 30 to 40 hours per week. Other sources of funding. You must declare whether you have applied, will apply, or have received funding from other sources for the jobs requested. The salary must respect minimum wage requirements in your province or territory. Money owing to the government, this must be declared. Any money that is still owing to the government of Canada, there's a spot there that you need to ensure that that's indicated. Health and safety must be demonstrated that you've implemented adequate measures to ensure youth awareness of health and safety practices in the work environment. Safety measures must relate to the type of work environment and specific job type and activities. Hiring practices and work environment must be free of harassment and discrimination. The supervision must be outlined in the plan for the youth and the proposed job activities. You must also outline the mentoring plan for the youth. The past results. The department will review all files associated with your organization to verify if there is documented evidence from previous arrangements with the department that would render your application ineligible, including but not limited to financial discrepancies, health and safety concerns, past project default, or other results. The department may also review previous applications and all previous correspondence, including responses to requests for missing information or clarification as part of the review process. The department may also consult with the Canada Revenue Agency, CRA, on past financial irregularities. The assessment criteria are used to evaluate the quality of job through the following categories: provide quality work experiences for the youth, provide youth with opportunity to develop and improve their skills, respond to the national and local priorities to improve access to the labor market for youth who face unique barriers. Note that assessment is carried on out through a constituency by constituency basis. Your application should demonstrate the quality of the proposed job placement in a number of ways based on the assessment criteria detailed in the next slide. So the quality of the work experience. Jobs that provide a salary above the provincial or territorial minimum wage. Employers who intend to retain the youth as an employee following the end of the CSJ agreement. Employers who provide quality supervision such as on-site or remote supervision. Providing supervision is mandatory for CSJ. Your supervision plan should be task-oriented and focused on the specific job activities. Supervision is a key element for ensuring that the work environment is safe, inclusive, and healthy, and free from harassment and discrimination. Your mentoring plan should be focused on the long-term career development of the youth and provide guidance related to the professional and career development goals of the youth. Applicants must identify the skills that will be developed. The application form lists the following choices: client service, teamwork, communication, digital skills, leadership, and there's also a space for you to list any other job skills that the youth might be participating in. Respond to national and local priorities to improve access to the labor market for youth who face unique barriers. The national priorities are established to help the program achieve its objectives of helping young people, particularly those facing barriers to employment, to transition into the labor market. In 2022, Canada Summer Jobs will plan to reach youth that faced greater obstacles to obtaining a first job experience and prioritize job opportunities for youth facing systemic barriers to participation and jobs in small businesses and the non-for-profit sector. Specifically, youth who are early leavers of high school, not in employment, education, or training. 2, Black or other racialized youth. 3, youth with disabilities. 4, Indigenous youth. And 5, small businesses and non-for-profit organizations that self-report as having leadership from groups that are underrepresented in the labor market. Local priorities are established for each constituency by members of parliament throughout the country, taking into account labor market information. So please indicate which local priorities your project supports. If your application demonstrates that it meets more than one local priority, you'll be awarded additional points. The local priorities for your constituency are available at the following link. We'll make sure that's provided for you all. Also, I'd like to note that it is not mandatory for members of parliament to establish local priorities. You will not be penalized during assessment if your member of parliament has not established local priorities. So I will review some of the key elements of the application. The applicant guide covers all aspects of the application in detail. It's important that all the information provided in your application be complete and accurate to ensure comprehensive assessment and smooth processing. The Canada Revenue Agency business number is the first piece of information required on the application. This number is mandatory as we cannot enter into a contribution agreement with an employer without it. The employer type allows us to determine what level of funding you will be eligible for should your application be approved. If you are uncertain of your employer type, you can consult the Canada Revenue Agency website. The legal name of your organization is significant in that this is the name in which payments will be issued. The legal name is the name that corresponds with your CRA business number. You should make sure that the employer contact person information is accurate as well. It's crucial that the employer contact person be a person with whom Service Canada can communicate regarding the application or any consequent agreement. This individual must be fully informed of both the application and the proposed job activities. While your application will be assessed primarily on the job requested, we ask that you describe your organization's activities to better understand the context of the requested job. The location of the proposed activities enables us to determine in which constituency your project will be located, and therefore which local priorities will apply during the assessment. It is important that if the proposed activities will be held in multiple locations, you must ensure that these locations are all within the same constituency. If the various locations are across multiple constituencies, a separate project application must be submitted for each constituency. We are no longer asking to confirm your liability coverage in the application form. However, you must ensure all youth employed under Canada Summer Jobs are covered by either workers' compensation or an equivalent liability insurance. This obligation is stated in the Articles of Agreement. The job details section is the most important part of the assessment. The applicant guide explains in detail how to complete this section. The final portion of the application is the financial details section, where you specify the hours, weeks, and wage for the requested job and calculate the total contribution you are requesting. When you submit your online application or sign your paper application, you're attesting that you have read and understood the Canada Summer Jobs Article of Agreement and the applicant guide. You are also attesting that the job included in your application would not be created without the financial assistance provided under Canada Summer Jobs. The application period is open until January 25th, 2022. Throughout the application period, you are encouraged to promote the program in your community. You can apply online, in person, or by mail. The earliest start date is April 25th, 2022, but you must receive approval from Service Canada prior to hiring the youth. Youth cannot start the employment before the start date approved by Service Canada. Employers will be notified of the results of their assessment in April. To summarize the information we've covered during this information session, we would like to present you with 8 helpful tips on how to prepare your Canada Summer Jobs application. Tip 1, be sure to read the entire applicant guide and the application form prior to completing your application. This will help ensure that your application is complete and addresses all the requirements that will be assessed once submitted. While you're filling out your application, you should have your applicant guide beside you as a reference tool, as it provides instructions on the details that must be covered in each section and field of the application. Sorry. Tip 2, make sure you provide sufficient information in the job details section. The assessment criterion for local priorities appears in this section. If the job being offered meets one or more of the local priorities in the constituency where the job is located, you must provide the context necessary to illustrate how the job relates to the priorities. Number 3, identify the constituency where the work will take place. Local priorities are established by constituency and will vary. You must refer to the specific local priorities for the constituency where the youth would perform the proposed work activities. If proposed activities are in multiple constituencies, you must complete a separate application for each constituency. In cases where MPs have not submitted local priorities for the riding, employers will not be penalized. Ensure the organization's legal name matches the CRA business number. So check with your applicant guide on that little bit of a direction. Note that you should provide your RP, your payroll business number in your application. An RP account with the CRA is required if your business pays employees, and you must have an RP number, business number, prior to hiring youth through Canada Summer Jobs. Number 5, for employers intending to recruit unrepresented youth, provide a recruitment plan with clear links to the underrepresented youth group selected. In 2022, Canada Summer Jobs will plan to reach youth that face greater obstacles to obtaining a first job experience and prioritize job opportunities for youth facing systemic barriers to participation and jobs in small businesses and the non-for-profit sector. Specifically, I do apologize, youth who are early leavers of high school, not in employment, education, or training, Black or other racialized youth, youth with disabilities, Indigenous youth, and small businesses and not-for-profit organizations that self-report as having leadership from groups that are unrepresented in the labor market. Your recruitment plan must show a clear link between your planned recruitment activities and the underrepresented group youth group that you are targeting. For example, if you are intending to hire an Indigenous youth, a recruitment plan should include posting recruitment advertisements in an employment center that serves Indigenous youth. Your recruitment methods and efforts to hire priority youth may be monitored by Service Canada officials. Number 6, keep all your contact information up to date. Ensure that your email address and telephone number submitted on your application are functional from the time that you apply up until you are notified of the outcome of your submission. Service Canada officials will be communicating with you primarily via email, but we may call to follow up. If your email address or your telephone number changes, please advise Service Canada, your project officer. The person who signs the application, also known as the signing authority, should be the same person who signs the payment claim, should your application be successful. If this individual changes or a different authorized person signs the claim, please inform Service Canada right away. Make sure to check periodically your junk mail folder in case you've missed any communication from Service Canada. Sometimes it tends to pop into that trash or that junk mail. Ooh. Let's see, number 7. So submit your application once using one method. Submitting multiple copies or using multiple methods could result in a longer processing time. So if you're applying online, click submit only once you've completed the application. Faxed or emailed applications will not be considered. Confirmation of receipt once an application has been successfully submitted, and a confirmation number will be generated. You'll receive the confirmation number by receipt or a receipt by email. If you did not receive the confirmation email, then it's likely you did not hit submit. So in that case, there's a number here for you to contact, 1-800-935-5555. Submit your application by January 25th, 2022. Don't wait until the last minute. It starts to become a lot at that time. So let me see. So now we can maybe hand it over to Debbie and get Melanie back on video here, and we're open to any kind of questions.
Yeah, for sure. Tracy, maybe if you want to stop your share.
I sure
I've
can.
definitely noted a lot of questions in the chat, so we're just going to go through them. I also have some questions that were added to the registration that we can go through. And again, if you do have more questions, please continue to add them to the chat and we'll get through as many of them as we can. So first off, Patrina had written, I have a question about the part where you mention a possible tie-in / overlap between co-op students and Canada Summer Jobs funding. How does this work when Canada Summer Jobs requires full-time 30+ hours per week, while co-op placement is part-time. So Katrina, so it kind of depends on the school program that you're connected to. Most co-ops do require full-time placements for their students, although they do sometimes allow you to have a student work part-time for 2 semesters to fulfill their hours. So that might be more of a question for the schools rather than Canada Summer Jobs. So from what I'm understanding, Canada Summer Jobs requires between 30 to 40 hours a week. Is that right?
Yeah,
That's correct.
that's right.
Yeah, in order to provide a quality job placement, the placement needs to be between 30 and 40 hours per week.
Great. Okay, so you guys were just talking about this confirmation email, and Maggie had asked, is there a confirmation email for submitted applications? I hadn't submitted my application, but have had 2 folks from the job bank reach out about our posting. So maybe there's some confusion there.
Do you want me to take that
Sounds
one?
like a technical issue. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Tracy.
Yeah, so no jobs are uploaded to the job bank until the job is approved. So no jobs have been approved at this point. It's just the submission process at this point in time. So yeah, that might not have anything to do with the youth job bank. I do apologize for my cat. So that wouldn't have anything to do with Canada Summer Jobs.
Okay.
However, just running on that, once you are approved, if and when, your job is automatically uploaded to the youth job bank for you. So you can take a peek in there once you've received your notice of approval, and you'll be able to see it in there.
Okay.
Just to add on that, the approvals will not be announced until sometime in April.
That's right.
So there should be nothing on the job bank until that time, if you are approved.
So potentially a glitch then. Okay, so there was 2 questions about constituency areas and the nature of remote work at this time. So does this mean that the student has to live or work, I guess, in the constituency of the organization, or is the work, like, how does that work?
So yeah, remote work is very common nowadays. And a lot of employers do ask this question. And it's important to note that you won't know who you're hiring yet until you're approved. You shouldn't be knowing where they're going to live. So when you're applying, you're going to put the location of your office or whatever the location of your business is, and wherever the youth would have worked from had there been no pandemic. So the location of the job activities that you put on the application would be the location where they're working out of, where they'll be supervised from, the main business location. So even though they're working from home, it doesn't matter if they're outside the constituency, their work is being provided for the business that's within a specific constituency. So your constituency will align with your business address.
Okay, great. So next question here is, how are local priorities assessed for remote work? Oh, sorry, I'm repeating the same question. Excuse me. The next question is, can the positions start before and/or continue past the April and September dates? Understanding that the funding would only be allocated between those dates. And a follow-up question is, can it be a previous employee, or does this have to be a new employee?
I'll give that over to Tracy.
Sure. Yes, so highlight that jobs cannot start before you've received an approval letter. All jobs need to be fully completed by September 3rd, 2022. So you can hire a youth that has previously been with your organization, as long as they're not taking a job away from somebody that's already in that position. Right? So somebody can't be kicked out in order to bring a youth back into that role. Yeah.
Also, I'll add that employers are encouraged and they're welcome to keep youth on after the September 3rd end date of the program. That's going to add points, in fact, for the assessment, so that if they say that they're planning to retain youth, that that's a more of a quality placement. So that's encouraged. But
Yes.
just so you're aware that you will not receive any reimbursement for hours worked after the September 3rd date.
Okay, great. So our next question is from Angela, and she asks, is an organization able to submit more than one application to Canada Summer Jobs?
So one application per constituency. You could have one job in a constituency, or you could have 50 jobs, 100 jobs in a constituency, one application per constituency. So same organization, same business number, and you might be in 2, maybe even 3 different constituencies. That's going to be 3 separate applications.
So if a not-for-profit had locations in Manitoba and in Alberta, then they would definitely submit multiple applications under one business number.
Yes.
For example.
Okay, great. So let me just look at the next question here. Sorry, that's a bit messy. So Canada Summer Job titles must match options in the National Occupational Classification. Nicola was asking that they couldn't find the museum assistant, which is a common title in the museum field, and what job title would you recommend for an entry-level all-around museum position?
This is a thorn in our side. We suggest you match something that closely resembles, as close as you possibly can to that. Try and find the description that closely matches and use that. Yeah. We might adjust accordingly if we don't see that it's a really snug fit from our side. But again, as employers, you know the job the best. So try and find the best knock code that represents that role.
Yeah, we will look at the job duties to see if it fits. Yeah, we're binded by the limits of these knock codes, and they definitely don't always fit perfectly with the job you're hiring for. But that's needed in order to be able to post the job to Job Bank, because Job Bank only really understands the knock code job titles. So do your best to match, as Tracy said, and if you're not sure, you can always contact us. Every individual situation is different. We can't really specifically, we don't have our knock codes in front of us right now, but you could certainly call and someone could provide you one-on-one support with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And it looks like Melissa just popped in a clarification question regarding local priorities. If an organization based in Vancouver wants to hire a northern youth for a remote work opportunity, they would be identified as a Vancouver constituency and be assessed according to Vancouver local priorities, even if there's a strong need for remote work operations for youth in the north.
Yeah, I think similar to the question previously, if the youth is working from outside the constituency, but they're working for an organization that's located within a BC constituency, you would apply under the BC constituency. And you're certainly able to hire youth outside of that constituency.
Okay, great. So Carolyn is asking, I'm a bit confused, Carolyn, so if you want to put some additional notes in the chat, that might be helpful, asking about the confirmation email address. She says, I submitted the online fillable form, but could not find the confirmation email from searching.
Definitely call us. Call us at the 1-800 number. I'll put that in the chat because it's possible that you didn't click submit, because you should be receiving it based on the email address that you inputted in your application. You should be receiving that confirmation.
And take a peek in your trash and your junk mail as well.
Okay, great. So let's see.
It does have something to do with the submit button, though.
Right. Okay, so Rudy asks, it looks like you only have 48 hours to complete your application online. Is this accurate? Seems very tight, especially when you have never filled it out before.
Yeah, there is a time frame on it for you. Actually, that's just new this year, I believe, right, Melanie? Before you couldn't walk away from it at all, but now we do have a little bit of a short time period. for you to work on it and then kind of come back and forth. So yeah.
I think there was a 20-hour limit on
What?
that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think that you can save and come back now.
Okay.
That's new. I think it's 48 hours.
I think so. I think.
Yeah. But you don't want to leave it for too long.
Yeah, I know that when I, in my previous role at the Vancouver Fringe Festival, I'd copy down all the questions and prepare things in advance. I just had to copy paste when I actually went into the application. So that might be a way around that if you're finding that the time is too tight.
I left my application for less than a full day and it was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
that might have
20
been.
It was less
Yeah,
than
it might have
24
been under
hours.
the
Yeah.
20 hours. Yeah.
Oh,
Was
So
that
it's-
this year?
yeah, like last week.
So
And I
then-
think it
then
just
the-
changed last week.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
You'll have to start over.
Sorry about that, Megan.
yep, that's okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Practice makes perfect. It's good.
Yeah. Good attitude. We like that. Nice.
Great. So Brandy is asking if you could please review other ways to submit if the online portal is challenging. They're legally blind and find the portal less accessible.
So with reference to GCodes, that portal, or?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for noting that. I will pass that along. We should definitely have accessibility is a priority for us at Service Canada. So we do want to ensure that everyone should have ability to access the application forms. So please call the number that I put on the screen here, and it should be in the PowerPoint as well, that to get that one-on-one support, someone can send something to you that's adjusted that might help.
Great. And just so you know, Brandy, I'll be sending out the slides and the recording of the webinar in the next day or two to everyone who's registered for the event today. So just be sure to check your email so that that will be part of the slides there. So I'm just noting the time that it's just about 2 o'clock, but there's still a bunch more questions. So if everyone's okay, I'd like to try and run through a few more. Hopefully that is okay. And if you need to log off, then you need to log off. And someone has just asked about the recording of the webinar. We are recording it. Again, I will send it via email in the next couple days. So make sure to keep a lookout for an email from Talent Match for that. So going back to questions, if the youth is being hired, is a student and the job integrates with their career goals or curriculum, will the employer get more points?
I'll give that over to Tracy.
So what we're looking at when we're doing the assessment is we're looking at the skills that are being developed. And of course, we're looking at the supervision and the mentoring. So really put in detail how the mentoring is going to benefit the youth, right? And going over back to the skills part, really take your time and try and hit all those points in order for us to see where those skills are being developed. So extra points, if that's being shown in the mentoring part, absolutely, sure.
Okay, great. Will Canada's Summer Jobs funding apply to existing part-time youth staff that will transition to a full-time role in the summer?
Yes. Actually, that's more of a question you'll want to bring up with your project officer, because there might be some limitations there, but any youth that is with that organization right now in a certain role, and they would be moving into a separate role as a full-time position for that Canada Summer Jobs period, is eligible. But it's good to bring these questions to your project officer as well.
Okay, great. And can a youth who's been funded with Canada Summer Jobs previously be funded for more than one summer?
Yeah, you can have a reoccurring youth for sure. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, oftentimes employers will have had a positive experience with the youth the previous year, and they want to bring them back a second year, and it gives them an opportunity. I mean, we certainly want to encourage them to give as many opportunities to as many youth as possible, of course, but if they've had a positive experience, we're not going to discourage that.
Okay, great. So someone in the registration asked if you could explain a bit more about the Mercs. They mentioned there's no equation in the application and it says it will automatically calculate. And if there's a tool that they could use, or perhaps just some more information on how they can figure out their Mercs.
I do have that information and I can pop that into the chat. If I can put my finger on it.
Okay, great.
So there is a calculation that, here we go, that is with CRA. That does help, but I will pop in our equation there too, or our calculation there too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah, the CRA website has a helpful link to help you with calculating your Mercs.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm just going to review quickly for any questions that were put in since I last copy pasted. So just give me 1 sec, and hopefully that will be everything. Sorry, we asked that question. Let's see, sorry. Yes, the recording will be available. Jesse asks, is it possible to find out the points you got for previous applications?
I've never asked that. I've never been asked that question.
I don't think that we do share those specifics with regard to the scoring of applications. You can certainly connect with a program officer to ask how you did and how you can improve for future years. Yeah.
Great.
And they can give you some generalized information.
Yeah, but following the applicant guide and just reading the fine print and really taking your time with it is extremely important if you're looking for that score factor. Yeah.
Great. So Himmel is asking, is it possible to have email addresses of participants in this webinar in case we want to connect with them? I'm guessing that Himmel, you mean the speakers today. So maybe Melanie and Tracy, you could put your email addresses in the chat. That would be great. And I'll add mine as well. And
no problem.
Let's see, if there's anything else. Oh, I think this is probably the last question. Kira asked, in the past, we were able to request a change to our job offer. Oops. Sorry. Oh, I've lost it. Sorry. Oh, yes, there we go. We were granted 2 jobs for 8-week positions, but we were able to adjust that to 1 job for 16-week position, which better suited our needs. But in 2021, this was not allowed. Will adjustment requests be allowed this year?
Actually, no, we won't be looking at back-to-back jobs. So the number of jobs you've been approved for, that's the amount of participants we would like to see in that job with that organization. So if you're approved for 4 jobs, 4 participants, we need to see 4 different youth.
Okay, great.
And the reason for that is to ensure that we are giving opportunities to as many youth as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. And so sorry, there was a couple more questions that popped in there after I said that was the last question. So I love it. Matt asks, it was mentioned that we should specify the work location as 1 location. However, we run an event business with different head offices to where our events take place in 8 different locations across BC. So the person would work in various locations. And how would that be set up?
So what we're looking at there is where the youth would report all of the time. They could be running around to those 8 different locations, but where they would report to would be 1 main location. So if they were perhaps all the event supplies were in 1 office location, that's where they would meet. Or if that's where the team would meet for you know, a meeting, whatever that looks like, then that would be the main location. So again, if you have one youth that will be running around, or a team that'll be running around to those 8 different locations, you need to establish one main location for those youth. If that's not a possibility, then that might establish that you need to have more than one application, because they will be spending 75% at one location, then, you know, 85% at another location. So you need to establish one consistent location.
And consider where they would be spending most of their time for the
That's right.
job activities.
Yeah.
But we would discourage anyone from putting a public location like a public park, even though they might spend some time there. They should be putting the location where they're reporting, where they're paid from, where their supervisor is located from on their application.
That's right.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that looks like all of our questions. So thanks so much to everyone who attended today and asked great questions. And of course, thanks to Tracy and Melanie for giving us this presentation and answering all those questions. And also to Carmen and Carly for interpreting and staying on a little bit longer. So yes, again, we'll end the recording now, but I'll leave the chat up so anyone who needs to copy paste those email addresses can access them in the chat. And yes, again, thanks again, and have a great afternoon and good luck with your applications.
Thanks.